We get to some injuries now with Doc O'Brien. As we mentioned, we were talking about the Cowboys and their problems and the fact that they will most likely be without a couple of their most important players as they get ready to take on the Eagles in prime time. Doc, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
All right, let me start with Tyron Smith, who his absence last week was critical. Doc, how about a tackle playing with a groin?
You know, Mike, most of the time the tackles can. I think there's a mixture of things going on. They list in the NFL injury report, they have it listed as his back. So my guess is it's a combination that's taken him out. He had back problems last year as well. Most of the offensive linemen play with groin injuries all year long, and I know he's a great player. So my suspicion is...
You think it's the back more than a groin, okay. They listed it as strained groin, but you think it's a back problem.
Yeah, I think it's a combo that's doing it to him, but I think he'll be back in a week. He's not going to be out long. Most of the linemen play with that all year long.
All right, their hard brain on defense is Sean Lee. Everybody knows that. He's got a hamstring. He's not playing this week. How many weeks this late in the season are we looking at him with a hamstring, Doc?
You know what, Mike? From what I read, I think they're going to rest him until the Giants game, which is December 10th or something.
10th,
yeah,
yes.
Week 14. And that's a smart thing. You know, he keeps rehurting this thing. Now, I can see why they want him out on the field, because when he's on the field, they allow about 80 yards rushing per game. With him out, 164.
Yep.
However, he keeps hurting it. And that can be problematic. A lot of times it's coaches and sometimes the docs think, well, even if he hurts it 2 or 3 times, we'll race it after the season, he'll be fine.
Does it build up scar tissue?
Yes. And you hit it right on the nose, Mike. They build up scar tissue when it's not pliable, so they rip right through it, and it can end careers. I think it was smart that they sat him down, and they basically, Mike, a hamstring takes 6 weeks. You should stop kidding ourselves with all these athletes because they keep re-tearing them.
So a hamstring, if you got a hamstring, you're looking at 6 weeks before you're healthy again.
An accident on the northbound guard seat.
All right, that's just something that bled through. That's just traffic. That happens from time to time. All right, Damon.
No, 6 weeks.
We don't know about Damon Harrison on the ankle yet. They say he's, a game time decision. Big man. 350 pounds on that ankle. He's not been the same run stopper. Now, he plays in a very confined area. Can you put him out there because of that with the ankle?
Absolutely. He probably had a low ankle sprain. Despite him going off the field and carted off, he was back practicing 3 to 4 days later. He was pretty active in practice. They had him as limited one day, and I think he's doing more now. He'll play. It's a low ankle sprain. They hurt a lot when they first get hurt. But if they don't swell too much, you can tape them up, they can go. I would look for him to play.
All right, let me talk about this guy who we know is out this week, but what are we looking at with him? Devonta Freeman, 2nd concussion of the year, 3rd concussion of his career. How does the protocol change when a guy is a multiple, frequent concussion guy?
It's a great question. The answer is no. You can have guys, Mike, that get completely knocked out and have no post-concussive symptoms, and you can have another guy, which we'll talk about, Phillips Rivers, that has nothing during the game, comes 2 days later, and can be out for weeks. So it's really how they do in terms of their recovery. Having said that, there is something that's been talked about forever called second impact syndrome. That is, if you get brain swelling from a first injury, if you get another injury within the first 2 to 3 weeks, you can get rapid brain swelling and die. Now, in large part, that's been debunked, but there are cases of it. So I think that it's unlikely you're going to see him back this season, and they just, I know, picked up a running back, so I think they're planning to be without him.
All right, Cam Chancellor, stinger, Doc. When we hear stinger, the fans hear that a lot. Explain to them exactly in layman's terms what a stinger is.
Okay, the nerves that leave your neck are right above your shoulder blade and your collarbone, and if you tackle someone and you lean your shoulder into them, those nerves get stretched and makes your arm go dead. It's a benign process, and usually you manage them conservatively and you just let them go back when they're able to control their strength. But in this particular case, they're suspicious that that same neurological dysfunction may be coming higher up from the neck. And if you have a disc up there and they have a big, problem with it pressing on a nerve, you can have a more serious injury. So in this particular case, if it's from the nerves outside the neck, he'll be back as soon as he has his strength back, but I don't know if it's going to be right now because I don't think he's been practicing.
Yep.
But if the tests show that he's got a disc in his neck, he's on the shelf.
Stingers last how long?
They can last for a few minutes, or if you remember back to Harry Carson, it can be permanent. He had lost control of his one arm for maybe the last 2 years of his career.
All right, Rivers, you mentioned, Phillip Rivers. He did not have symptoms or did not complain until 2 days later, and now his 194-game streak of starting is in jeopardy because he is come up with concussion symptoms 2 days after the game.
Right, and so this is where it gets crazy because it would make sense that this guy would have no trouble. Now he is practicing, and I think he will play. He had self-reported symptoms on Monday, but from what I understand, he's full practicing right now. But
what would you look for with him? If you, what would make you? I mean, does he have to clear something to come back? I mean, what would you do? Oh, so you give him the protocol where he's got to go through his memory thing and all that stuff.
Exactly, and then you got to get him running without a headache. Then you got to get him practicing without a headache. Then you simulate live conditions, and then you go live. He has to pass all those steps without any symptoms, and I think he'll play. I feel very confident he'll play.
We're talking with Dr. Steve O'Brien, special surgery, about injuries this week. Now, this guy is kind of the poster guy for our report because he's on there of the key players, probably on there the most, and that's Jordan Reed from the Redskins. Now on there with a hamstring. Doc, when you get a good player who's always hurt, how do you guys deal with a guy, and you were on the sideline for 15 years with the Giants, when you got a guy who just, and it doesn't mean it's anything that he's, his fault. He's a great player. He's wants to be out there. He's not a malingerer or anything, but he's always got something wrong. How do you deal with these guys?
Depends how good they are. If it's Gronkowski, you take him whenever you can get him.
And Reed's really good. He's really good. Yeah, and now he's got a hamstring.
Yeah, so you need a good backup. But a guy this good, you take him when you can get him as much as you can. If he's a so-so player and you can't count on him from week to week, then you got to move on.
But this guy, I mean, guys who are injury-prone are just always injury-prone, right? I mean, there's just certain people just always get hurt, right?
There's no question. And some guys just have bad bodies, and other guys are just unlucky. But at the end of the day, it depends on how good they are.
And this guy with the hamstring, again, we're dealing with him now. He's had so many injuries. Now he's got a hamstring.
Yeah, and again, they're trying to rush him back. It's not working out. And so they just got to slow down and wait till it's been 6 weeks. Up to 1/3 of all NFL hamstring injuries come back. 1/3.
1/3 come back.
At least 1/3, and I think it's 38%, maybe even higher. But the bottom line is, stop kidding yourself. Put them on the shelf. Rehab them until the 6th week. Let them be bored for a week or two, because nothing mimics game condition. You can have a guy run fantastic in practice, and 3 series into the game, he hurts himself again.
So even if he runs on the sideline, you put him in a game and he winds up getting it. And I've seen that happen in baseball, too, where they say, hey, you ran great before the game, and then he ran in a game, and he runs down to first base and gets hurt again.
Nothing mimics game conditions, Mike.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so there's no way then to be sure the guy's healed then. So
no, and that's why I wait 6 weeks, because look at Sean Lee. I mean, it's crazy. It's screwing up their season and screwing him up if he's going to think about playing the playoffs.
All right. Great job, Doc. Thank you.
Hey, Mike. Thanks. Have a great weekend, pal.
Dr. Steve O'Brien, special surgery. So there we go. He says that Snacks will play, which is key against that Kansas City running game. And he does play in very controlled space, so that helps him despite his, enormous size. I mean, Snacks must be 340 pounds. I mean, if he's a pound, he's 340 pounds. And it sounds like Devonta Freeman's going to be gone for a while. That's his 3rd concussion since he's been in the league, 2nd concussion this year. And watch Rivers, who has started 194 games in a row. He started showing symptoms on Monday night. So, again, he's back. He wants to play. He's very protective of his streak. And here's an amazing thing. At the top of the you think about durability with quarterbacks. The 3 quarterbacks taken in the year of Eli and Roethlisberger and Rivers, those 3, think of how consistent they have been. Roethlisberger has had a couple injuries, but for the most part, he's been there game in, game out for 15 years. Eli is now over 200 games in a row. Rivers is now 194 games in a row. These guys have been amazingly durable figures in this league, all drafted at the top of the same draft. Those 3 players all were in each other's hair their whole lives. All of them at the top of that same draft. Roethlisberger easily could have been a Giant, because Ernie Accorsi, I remember telling me, if I don't make this trade, I'm very comfortable with another quarterback of the 2. I asked him which one. He said, I'm not telling you until after the draft. After the draft, I asked him. He said, I would have been very comfortable with Roethlisberger. He could have easily been a Giant. So Eli goes to the Giants. Rivers goes to San Diego. Roethlisberger goes to the Steelers. And here we are, all these years later, they're all still playing, and they've been really the picture of dependability, all three of them, back after that.